Hey guys, this is Mina. I wanted to do a follow-up video, an updated way of doing the full page print and cut hack, which bypasses the Cricut's print and cut. So no registration marks needed. Your machine will not be reading anything. It'll just be cutting the moment that we perform this correctly. So I wanted to do this so that you could also get an idea of how to do a sticker sheet. And this is how I've tested this method, and it works out pretty well. It's fairly easy. You do have to be familiar with Procreate. You could also do this really with any other drawing app. You could use Affinity Designer, or you could use Photoshop. Whatever you have, you can definitely use. If you're hearing some weird background noise, I think my neighbor might be working on his house. So, full disclosure, there might be some noise in the background. I am just recording this from my phone. So, let's get started. So, I'm going to go ahead and choose a new canvas size. I'm going to do a custom one. I'm going to do it with inches. And I'm going to choose over here, just do it with my finger, it's easier. 8.5 by 11 inches height. DPI is good, color profile is fine. Let's create that. You want to make sure that you're working with your iPad like this, because if you turn it around, it's not going to work out as easily, and this is just the better way to do this. So I'm going to go up here. Go to drawing guide, and it's gonna look a little bit off. Just leave that alone. We're gonna go down to the grid size. Not sure if you can see that. Go down to the grid size and click on it, and the grid is each of these little squares. It's saying that the pixel size of these squares is 139 right now. It's what it's showing. We're gonna make it 100. So now what this means is that each of these little squares is 100, and 100 is equivalent to 1/4 of an inch. So that's what we want. So now if you go up here, it's perfectly lined up on the squares. So we're just gonna click done. Now the first thing I like to do is go to my background, and I like to make it a little bit off-white. And the reason I'm doing this is because when I put in my background, just to show you, you can now see my white, and that's going to be the color of the background of my stickers. So I'm going to go back and choose black. I'm going to go to calligraphy, monoline, make this a little bit smaller, and I should have a layer there. And I'm gonna go ahead and draw a square up here. Try to make it as straight as possible, adjacent to that line. That's good. There. I'm just gonna erase that little lump there. And I'm gonna go ahead, drag it, and do that. And that looks a little off, so I'm gonna go ahead and just perfect this a little bit. And you're gonna see why later, why it's important that that's like that. Now, as you're guessing, I'm choosing 2 by 2 squares. This means that this length here equals to 1/2 inch. I'm going to do this, and you'll see later why I'm choosing 1/2 inch. I'm going to be working with an HP printer, and the way that my HP printer prints out, it's not going to show the full square, and when I go to print it and then measure it, I want to make sure that once it's printed that this square is measuring 1/2 inch. If I make it 1/4 of an inch, it won't show up, and I won't have an idea if it's printing to scale. if your printer prints to scale, then you don't have to worry about this, but you should definitely practice this and make sure that you are accustomed to how your printer prints things. So I've tested this enough, and I am pretty sure that my printer is going to print to scale if I do this and then I measure it, and I'm good to go. So I'm going to go here, create a new layer, and to make this easy, I'm going to just choose my stamps again, and I'm going to, let's see where they are, rows of stamps. Okay, I'm gonna use our stamps, and we're going to just stamp away over here. Easy enough. So I'm going to place this here, just kind of arrange them. I'm not gonna make a very busy sticker sheet. I'm gonna make this fairly easy and quickly. So I'm gonna speed this process along just so you can see this, just so you can get an idea of what I'm gonna be doing. Okay, so what we have to do next is create a border for these stickers. So you're gonna see it next as the border, because I have a separate video that I'm gonna be doing specifically on how I do this border. It's a little bit of a process, but there's definitely different options to do this. I have my preference, but you work with what you have. Okay, I'm gonna see you next with the setup already with the borders. Okay, so here's what I did. I went ahead and removed the squares, I removed the background, I left it like this, I saved it as PNG, and I gave it the borders. You're gonna see that next. What I'm gonna do here is I'm just going to select them and group them and put them out of the way. I'm keeping that as a backup just in case I need it later. So I'm gonna go to add, and I'm going to insert photo, and I'm gonna have two. I'm going to have this one. I'm gonna go insert that first. The position got a little off. I'm going to insert these back on just so I can see it. And I'm going to try to line it up again as straight as possible. Pull this back down. And I'm happy with that. Let's try to see if we can center it. There we go. Okay. And I'm gonna go under this one. I also went ahead, you can see this is white. It's not white, it's an additional offset to this. I went ahead and created a background offset as well. And the reason I like to use this is because it gives you room for failure. What I mean by that is that when your machine goes to cut your stickers, it might not be perfect every single time, so you want to leave a little bit of room for error in case it needs it. So if it cuts just slightly, ever so slightly off for whatever reason, you're not gonna end up with the background color coming up. You're gonna end up with the white. So this is what I'm going to show you. So you have your stickers, and you see how it's just slightly bigger. So if the machine doesn't quite cut along the line of the border, it has a little wiggle room, and you won't end up with your background as part of your sticker. It'll still have a white border. So it gives you just a little wiggle room, and that's just nice to have. It actually gives it a really nice look. So now that I have this set up, I'm gonna go ahead and create another layer. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to enter the branding for me. So I'm just gonna find whatever simple one. Always looking for ideas on what to work with. So let's see. That one works. That one's good. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add that. So with my photos, you'll see that I just work with a lot of inspiration. I like to be looking at something when I'm creating, so that I get a really good idea of what I want to do. So this is what I'm gonna look, what it's gonna look like. You can also add the name of your sticker sheet. You can really put anything you want. For now, I'm just gonna do that just to show you. Now I'm going to create yet another layer, and I'm gonna find a contrasting color to this. I'm gonna do a very light yellow. See how this looks. Not bad. I'm gonna make it just a little bit lighter. That works. Okay. So I'm just showing you the setup of how you might want to do this. So I'm gonna leave it like this. Normally at the bottom I would create another layer and add in my website, whatnot, but this is just an example, so I'm gonna leave it. Alright, so now we have this set up, and what I'm gonna do next is just to show you what you can do. I'm gonna round out the corners so I can have the Cricut do that too for me. You can definitely just leave it like this, cut it out this way, and then use one of these things right here. It has 3 options on cutting your corners. I have this one, which is just one option on cutting the corners, and this is what came with my laminator. So there's that option. To give you an idea what that's gonna look like is it gives you these corners. They're decent. If you want them more rounded, you can use that one. That one works too. Or you can just have your Cricut just do it all if you don't have a corner rounder. And this is how we're gonna do it. This is how I'm gonna do it. If you find an easier way on how to do this, definitely just go ahead and do it. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm in the layer. I'm going to make this as big as possible, and I'm going to erase this here actually, and you can see this, the black square, our makeshift registration line. I'm gonna aim to actually, let me think. Let's do it like this. I'm gonna aim to make this about 3 by 3 square. So I'm gonna make this big and just try to do it very rounded. Hold it, and now you're working with this. Let's do that again. Hold it there. So the streamline came into play here. Now this is not quite, it's a little too rounded, so you have to kind of play with it. I think that might be, oh. Okay. It's so finicky. So I'm gonna try to match this down here to what's happening up there without, okay, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna settle with that. Right here, it kind of colored that in a little bit, so I'm gonna oh, okay, I still have the stamp. Okay, so calligraphy monoline. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, now we're gonna go and erase this. So don't worry about this. We're gonna resize everything, and we're gonna be making some very large sticker sheets because we want to make sure that we are taking advantage of the full space of the sheet as much as possible, but it also has to fit into our shallow bags. And the shallow bags that I have, the largest ones I have, I believe, are 5x7, which is how big my craft envelopes are. So I don't want to make it any bigger than that. So now that I have this corner still on this layer, I'm gonna go ahead, go here, freehand, and I'm going to select this corner approximately right there. You're gonna swipe with 3 fingers and you're gonna duplicate this corner. So now here's what we're gonna do. Going back over here, I'm going to erase about the corner there, and we're gonna do this for all the corners because this gives you more of a guarantee that your rounded corners are going to stay the same versus trying to fight the eraser and fail miserably every time like I did earlier. So I'm gonna go back over here and I'm going to drag this over, turn it like this, and try to line this up as best as possible to the top and on the side. So that's just slightly off. Oop. I'm not sure if you saw that, but there we go. Oop. Okay. Oh my god. There. If you saw that there was a golden line here, it tells you that it's lined up perfectly, and that's what the snapping option is for. Okay. So I'm gonna do that, and now I'm gonna do that for the other 2 corners. So I'll see you next, having all the rounded corners. Alright, so now I have all the corners rounded. What I'm gonna do next is just combine all of these layers. So now, perfectly rounded corners. Perfect. What's next? This is what we're gonna do next. We're going to group these 2. And I'm gonna just move this down here to get this out of the way. So don't lose track of your layers. You have your registration marks there. You have your background, which is the color and whatever you want to put on that backing. You can add on there. You have the option to even add more decorational flowers if you want. Let's say like something completely off. Let's do that. Very pretty purple. You can do that. Rose stamps. And we can add just just pick this one. Make them tiny. I'll do it right. No, I'm gonna add a new layer. Always do a new layer. When in doubt, do a brand new layer. Let's make that like this. There. So you can do that. These are going to end up being on the background, just very pretty decorations. Let me add one more over here and just make it smaller like that. Let's do one more over here and also make it smaller so it fits better. Maybe turn it around a little bit. Okay, whatever. We're not gonna go too extra on this. So now that we have the backing, and then we also have the stickers, I'm gonna go ahead and actually make this background part of the backing. So now we have the stickers and the backing. You can go as extra with this as you want. I'm just going to make it like this. So this is what we're gonna do next. We're going to then group both of these like that, just to make this, actually, no, let me undo that. We're not going to group them. Okay, they're not grouped anymore. We're going to select them. We're going to make sure that we can see the registration marks. We're going to select and we're going to turn them. We just try to make them as straight as possible because it just makes it easier. Okay. So I know that I want to try to make this about 5 inches and close to 7 inches here, maybe even 6. So I'm going to select that dot, and the shortest end is right here. And I know that 2000 is 5 inches. So I'm going to do that. Perfect. If you want to make this even bigger, you can. We can also make it so that you end up with 4 sticker sheets that are 4 by 5. We can do that as well. You have options, it doesn't matter. We're gonna do it this way because now we can just cut 2 and it's gonna make it easier for our little experiment. So I'm gonna group them now actually. And I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this and going to drag this down. It's a little close to the edge of the bottom. So I'm gonna move it. Now, this is why these registration marks are important and why I'm still working with the drawing guides. This is what's going on. Most printers don't print all the way to the edge. It's always gonna leave a 1/4 of an inch border that does not get printed on. So we're going to make sure that we're not going over, not even a little bit. I'm happy with this setup. I'm gonna leave it like this. So remove the background, and now I'm going to move that up there, and I'm going to move this down here. So now we have the stickers in one and the backing in the other. Why are we doing this? Because this is the method that works with the print and cut hack. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to see. Okay. I'm going to make sure that this is actually lined up to this. I don't think it is. There we go. Now it's center. So I'm going to deselect the stickers, and I'm going to save this as a PNG file. Save image, perfectly. There, we're going to select the stickers again and deselect the background, leaving the registration marks, PNG file, perfect. now we have those. Now, I'm gonna put them back, and now we're gonna save all of it as a PNG file. Save image.